Hey everyone, I actually have been meaning to make this video for quite some time now, but I really wanted the video to be perfect, like with interesting visuals and a lot of demonstration and stuff. So that thought of wanting it to be perfect actually hampered me and prevented me from getting this video done. So I kind of stopped that thought, and now I'm just gonna stick it out. The video is gonna be whatever it's gonna be. I won't try to do anything extra for this video. I'm just gonna sit here and say a few things in my mind in relation to the last time I took the IELTS test, specifically about the speaking portion. Alright, so I've made a few notes, so don't mind me if you keep seeing me referring to my notes. So I remember vividly that in the first part of the test, the examiner asked me about accommodation, geography, and gifts. And now I'm just gonna go through each section of the speaking test one by one. And in the first part, the first topic was occupation, and the examiner asked me about how do I feel at the end of the day after finishing my work. And there are a few words that I used in that answer that really, I think, satisfied the expectations of the examiner. The first one was I said that I immediately said at the end of the day I just feel rewarded and fulfilled, and the examiner immediately followed his question with why. And I said, well, as you can see, as an English teacher, I'm in a special position where I can do my students a lot of benefit, and so it gives me a sense of impact. Seeing my students growing and developing in terms of their English proficiency really makes me feel like I'm impacting the world. I'm having some influence on the world. So I really explained and extended my answer. So I think that was something nice to talk about. So for each topic, I'm just gonna say a few things in relation to one specific question. The next topic is gonna be about geography. This wasn't something that I was well versed in, so I was quite nervous when I was asked this question. You could say that I was nerve-wracked. Okay, but then for each question, even though I didn't have fancy vocabulary, I just tried to convey all the ideas, the thoughts in my head, and that's it. So there was a question asking me about if I like geography or not. I talked about how learning geography at school was really boring because it was mostly just memorizing facts, and I believe that in this day and age we don't really have to remember facts because we can easily Google them, and in the future there will be AI there to serve us in this specific pursuit. We can ask AI, and I believe that the more AI develops, the more convenient it will be for us to get those facts from AI. Now that was what I said, and I was just trying to really combine a lot of other topics into this answer because I only said geographical features of the world. That was the only topic-specific vocabulary that I mentioned in that answer. Other than that, I could have included some vocabulary about maps, which was actually a topic that I was feeling quite confident in, but I didn't do that. So that's something for the future. Following that was gifts, and there was one question that I particularly remember, and it is a question about what was a gift that you appreciated the most. And I talked about a laptop that my father gave to me when I was younger. And for that question, I used a few words that could be, band score boosters. You could describe them like that. Those were, first of all, it was on a budget. I said that I was on a bad budget back in the day, so I couldn't afford that computer, and I really needed it because I was in university, so I really needed it to study digitally. So digitally, there was also a word that I used, so that might be something that you want to be aware of as well. Another thing I said was cherish. So instead of using the same vocabulary that the examiner used, I paraphrased appreciated with cherished. That was something that I really cherished. Okay, next up, let's leap into the part 2 question. And I remember being asked about a period in history that I am particularly interested in and would like to know more about. I described the war between America and Vietnam. I actually messed up the date. I didn't remember the exact date, so I made up a date. I said the war happened between 1975 and 1990. And after the test, I did a fact check, and it turned out to be between 1955 and 1975. So 1975 was actually the end of the war instead of the beginning. So some of the words that might be interesting to you are I used sovereignty, I used freedom, I used valiantly. So I said that despite a dearth of money and equipment, the Vietnamese soldiers still fought valiantly to protect our freedom and sovereignty. Something like that. And because I ran out of things to say, as you know, history is definitely not my forte. So I ran out of things to say pretty quickly. So I reverted to my feelings. I said that I really want to know more about how people would feel when they saw bombs dropped everywhere. I would love to know the emotions of those people. Not knowing if they would live through tomorrow to see the next day. Oh, I'm sorry. Not knowing if they would live through today to see tomorrow. Something like that. Okay, let's move on to part 3. Okay, so in part 3, I actually don't really have many words to share with you guys, but it's actually about a mindset. I know a lot of strategies to go about answering part 3 questions. I actually used 1 or 2 strategies that I learned in advance before I got into the exam room, but it happened very instinctively. I didn't force them. I didn't force those strategies. I remember in one question about what are some popular historic places in your country. I said, in terms of places of tremendous historic importance, there are a bunch of them. However, if I would, if I were to mention just one, I would say museums. Some of them have been in existence for quite a long time, like thousands of years. I said that, and the examiner immediately interrupted me, and he asked me about something else. He asked me about how about other places, and I talked about. I followed that with if museums aren't something that you are looking for, then I would say the sites of important battles in the past, something like that. And I continue to expand on my points about, visiting those places would give visitors a chance to reflect on all the things that happened in the past, how all the battles panned out, things like that. So in part 3, I would say just focus on the ideas instead of trying to, shoehorn in vocabulary. That's not something nice to do. Don't shoehorn in vocabulary. Just try to make the ideas that you want to express clear. I think that's the best strategy. But I did use some interesting vocabulary in my answers. A few things I used were the onus is honest to find the truth. That was actually in a question about the examiner asked me, do you think there are misconceptions in history? And I said, absolutely. It really depends on how each country likes to portray certain events in history. So I think if we are interested enough, the onus is on us to find the truth. And I said something like that. Let me see. Other words. Let me see. Actually, let me see my notes. Oh, yeah. There was also another topic about learning from past experience. I said, and the examiner asked me about what types of experiences give people lessons, and I said, what was that? I said, I think all the things that happen in our lives contain a kind of lesson, and it really just contingent upon whether or not we look deep enough to get some insights. I actually didn't use get. I said to derive some insights into what we could do differently in the future in order to make similar situations better. I said something like that. So I think part 3 is more about the mindset. Just try to make your ideas clear. The examiner is trained to recognize, memorize answers. So just try to convey your ideas very clearly. Just try to make your points, really easy to understand and get the message across. And I think that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I wish you guys luck. Okay, the best of luck.